Hello everyone, this is Anurag and you're watching Educurve. In this 11th video of the series Human Behavior, we will discuss the availability bias. Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, two psychologists, conducted a research with some college students. They asked them two questions. First question was that in 4 pages of a novel, how many 7-letter words do you think would be there that ends with ing? And then gave them a range to circle the answer. The second question was that how many 7-letter words would be there in that same text of this form. Now the obvious thing is that there would be as many words of this form as there are which ends with ing, because it has more blanks and more combinations are possible. But the answers of the questions will surprise you. They guessed on average that the 2000 word text contained 13.4 words ending in ing and only 4.7 words with n in the 6th position. And this is because it was easier to think of words ending with ing. We think about the possibilities of something with regard to the instances that come to our mind. It is easy for us to recall words ending with ing and not of this form. And this is the availability bias. A bias is a deviation from rationality in judgment, or you may simply call it irrationality. And availability bias is a mental shortcut that relies on the examples that immediately come to a given person's mind when evaluating a specific topic, concept, method, or decision. The applications of this bias can be studied under 4 different subheads. Let's pick them up one by one. Violent crimes are overestimated by people. This is because they are covered extensively by media. Due to this, violent crimes get into our minds and become more available for future when we think of related things. Hence, their frequency is overestimated. In an experiment, some researchers chose 41 causes of death. Some of the causes were natural, such as stomach cancer, heart failure, while the other causes were unnatural, such as murders, accidents, etc. As expected, people estimated unnatural causes to be much more frequent than the natural causes. Although stomach cancer is more than 5 times more frequent than murder, participants estimated that murder is about 1.6 times more frequent than the stomach cancer. This is because stomach cancer has zero media coverage while murder has very high media coverage. So essentially, media predicted the frequency of estimates. And for the same reason, crises, pandemics, etc. appear to be much more probable if they have occurred recently. These days, we are fearful of another virus like COVID-19 in near future, but the truth is that this event has occurred after many years and is one of its kind. In a famous study, husbands and wives both were asked, how much do you think that you contribute to keep your place clean and tidy in percentages? Now ideally, their combined percentages should sum up to 100%, but in almost every case, they exceeded 100. Both of them remember their own efforts much more clearly than those of the other. This happened with every question, whether taking out the garbage or fight contributions, etc. This is due to availability bias, where you judge things just by what comes to your mind. And this same thing happens with any team, whether in sports, corporate world, etc. The estimated sum of efforts in the contribution of a game or a project is very likely to exceed 100. Most of the team members will overestimate their own contribution and would also feel that others are not adequately grateful for their individual contributions. This happens not only for the past but future events as well. There is an unrealistic optimism in us, and we generally feel that we have a higher chance of experiencing positive events and a lower chance of experiencing negative events. Here, I would like to present you an example from the field of law. Research showed that in a court trial, the vividness of the evidence presented affected both the judgment and the retention after a 48-hour delay. In the experiment, 9 pieces of evidence were presented from the prosecution and 9 from the defense. But for some participants, only prosecution evidence was vivid, while for other participants, only defense evidence was vivid. The results were as availability bias would expect. When the prosecutor's evidence was vivid, the participants gave severe punishments for the guilt. But when the defense evidence was vivid, then the punishments given were less severe. This shows that vividness increases availability of information in our minds and increase the frequency of occurrence and hence impact our judgments. Suppose that Ahmad, Faisal, Junaid and Sajid are Muslims, where Ahmad and Faisal are selfish but Junaid and Sajid are generous. If Aman meets these 4 people twice, then he will conclude that Muslims are neither especially selfish nor especially generous. But if Aman meets Ahmad and Faisal 4 times but Junaid and Sajid only once, now Aman is very likely to believe that Muslims are selfish because instances of their selfishness will easily come to his mind and he will form a stereotype that Muslims are selfish. We generally do not have any intention to see people in a biased way, but still the availability bias contributes to stereotype formation. We must recognize that many times we rely on these individual instances. So we understood 4 areas where availability bias can occur: lethal events, perspective, vividness and stereotypes. Firstly, you should not rely on few opinions. Try to find out the true averages and rely on the actual data than on your intuitions or what your friends say. Secondly, always try to take others' perspective, which I keep encouraging you to do. Our own perspective is very limited and always deceive us or keep us in dark. Thirdly, we remember vivid images much more than statistics. So use this to your advantage while learning by forming vivid images in your mind. And be aware that vivid images may misguide you. Lastly, try not to form any stereotypes and even help the society break the existing ones. We are all unique and have our own strengths and weaknesses. We should not judge other people just because they belong to a particular class. So that was it. Thanks for watching and do let me know your instances where you face this bias. Please like and share the video and subscribe to the channel if you still haven't. We have just started and there's a lot to come.